Hello and welcome to my review of Sakura Santa. All of the gameplay you'll see in this video was captured on a Nintendo Switch, but the game's also available on PC. Also, I need to let you know that a review code was provided to me by the publisher. So, what is Sakura Santa and what's it all about? Well, it's actually an adult visual novel created by the development studio Winged Cloud. Don't worry if you're not familiar with the visual novel genre, it's very easy to explain. Depending on who you ask, they're not really games at all. They're more like interactive stories or choose-your-own-adventure books. While there are some exceptions, most visual novels tend to be very simple and the only thing you really have to do as a player is to read and make choices. This particular visual novel leans into the more spicy side of anime with the use of flirty dialogue and fan service artwork. Not every visual novel does this, but it is relatively common for the genre. If you're not into that sort of thing, then I completely understand. I personally have no problem with it, but I thought it should be mentioned. Story-wise, you assume the role of Koji, a male university student who's been feeling a bit down and lonely, especially now that it's getting closer to Christmas. He tries to make some plans, but they all kind of fall through, leaving him alone for the holidays. He decides to take a walk into the city and ends up helping an elderly priest at a local shrine. After completing his good deed and showing genuine kindness, he stumbles upon a beautiful fox girl. She then claims to be a spirit from the shrine and wants to spend time with him because she likes kind people. Later on in the day, he runs into an old friend who's all grown up now, handing out flyers for the cafe that she now works at. Not too long after saying goodbye to her, he meets a third female character claiming to be Santa. After a bit of convincing, he kinda accepts what she's saying and goes back home wondering if the entire day had been some sort of weird dream. And that's the basic setup, but I'll leave the details and the rest of the story for you to discover on your own. Gameplay-wise, there isn't really much for you to do because, as I said earlier, this is a visual novel. It's all about the story and the choices. Your choices in this game essentially govern who you'll hang out with and the path you'll take through the story. There's 3 main routes you can take related to the 3 different girls, and you can follow these by simply selecting the same choice each time you're asked. If you want to follow the Fox Girl path, for example, just select the shrine each time you're asked about it. Pretty much every time you get to a new section of the story with the various characters, you'll be shown a lewd piece of anime art to set the scene. These can be viewed whenever you want after seeing them from the main menu. As far as I can see, there isn't any actual nude images, but they are spicy in nature. Each girl has their own set of artwork to unlock, and you can get pictures featuring multiple girls as well. You'll need to find out how to cross the stories over to get those though. In terms of censorship, the game is completely uncensored on the Nintendo Switch and on the PC. Apparently, the publishers had planned to have the game be on PlayStation 4, but according to some of their tweets, Sony has flat out ignored them multiple times. Sadly, it's not really that surprising when you consider Sony's illogical and misguided censorship policies. One thing I did find kind of funny, and this isn't really an issue or anything like that, it's more of an observation, but the eShop image on the Nintendo Switch of the Santa character is actually censored when compared to the in-game artwork, and you can see that right here. If I had to guess, I'd say this is probably because children can look through the eShop and they didn't want them seeing anything too naughty or spicy, if you see what I mean. I think the image is quite tame either way personally, but I guess it is what it is. And really that's all there is to tell you about the game, so let's move on to the personal opinions, starting with the stuff I liked. So, as with most visual novels, there really isn't a lot I can say either positive or negative. In my opinion, these kind of games generally have 2 or maybe 3 points: the story, the artwork, and the choices. In regards to Sakura Santa in particular, I honestly like virtually everything about it. Don't get me wrong, you guys know I like some anime spice, but I felt this game struck the right balance. It's got a good dose of fan service, but there's also some sections that are genuinely funny and some parts where the characters are just, talking and getting to know each other. The most surprising of all is there's actually some really heartfelt and kind of wholesome moments in the story that I really did appreciate. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or the fact that we got a small puppy a few years ago or whatever the case may be, but I'm finding myself growing more and more sentimental and certain story beats just seem to hit me differently these days. The artwork is really nice as well. The backdrops are all great, nicely illustrated and very Christmassy. The characters themselves are gorgeous and they all look really good to me. They're really well drawn and they're very attractive to look at. Their personalities are all distinct and the way their lines are written make them feel really kind of relatable. The lewd pictures are of course the highlight. They're said to be the main selling points of the Sakura games and I'd say that's absolutely correct. The story is also pretty good and I really appreciate the fact that it doesn't outstay its welcome. Some visual novels can be very, very long, and I'd say that you can get through the 3 main paths in Sakura Santa in probably one evening. This is mostly thanks to the skip feature that allows you to fast forward the game. You can basically skip over all the things you've already seen in previous playthroughs to get to the new stuff quicker. It's also really helpful for going after the crossover paths. Now obviously I'm not a professional writer and I have zero credentials when it comes to judging good writing, but I found the writing in this game to be perfectly fine with only a few grammar mistakes. The story was more than adequate for a casual fan like myself, and like I said, it doesn't wear out its welcome. Overall, it's just a nice, happy story about someone who was alone for Christmas and then isn't. I guess it was just really pleasant to read, and I think it does capture a bit of the Christmas spirit. And I don't think there's going to be much to say in the negative section, but let's give it a go anyway. So what don't I like about it? Well, the same as my other visual novel review, which was Alcana, by the way, link in the description, there isn't really anything to dislike in my opinion. I found the story to be interesting and wholesome, and the art to be, of a very high quality. I suppose there could have been a few more girls in the game, more paths, more choices, more routes to take, but I think for the price you pay, you get more than enough. I would definitely like some visual novels to be released with a few more mechanics and additions, but then you do start moving into RPG territory. I mean, perhaps something like the social links from Persona, that would be pretty cool. Obviously, I'm not talking about the combat or anything like that, just the social sections. Being able to choose where to go and with who would be a nice addition, and also the girls having likes and dislikes that you need to find out through conversations and dialogue trees, things like that. But again, you add too much of that and it basically starts becoming an RPG, so there is a bit of a line there. But as I said, there's really nothing negative to add from a game point of view, but there is one thing I'd like to make people aware of. The developers of this game and the other Sakura visual novels have had a bit of controversy in the past. I don't think it's anything huge or disgusting like the stuff at Activision Blizzard or Ubisoft, but as far as I'm aware, a few publishers have stopped working with Winged Cloud due to their, quote, unprofessional behavior. Now, I don't have all the details, and I don't know exactly what happened, I wasn't there. But what I do know is that this was brought up around 4 years ago, and they're now working with a new publisher, who are the ones who gave me the code for the game, by the way. At the end of the day, humans are human, and humans make mistakes. I don't know the extent of the past issues, but in my opinion, no matter what they are, it doesn't really make the game any worse or any better. It does, however, need mentioning because you may feel differently and not want to play it if that's the case, and it's only right that you have all of the information. But yeah, I thought that was important to say, so now let's move on to the conclusion. Sakura Santa is, in my opinion, a fun, flirty, and festive visual novel that manages to be both sexy and sincere. If you're into these kind of games, I think you'll be happy with this one, and I do personally recommend it. I think it's a nice little distraction, and considering it costs about the same price as a real book, I'd say it's worth the money. Ultimately, if you're not into visual novels, I don't think this is the one that's going to change your mind, and that's fine. Not everything is for everyone, but for those of you that have even the slightest interest in this game, I'd say go for it. I mean, why not? There's plenty of worse things that could come down your chimney in the middle of the night. And so there you go, that's my review of Sakura Santa. It's available right now on Nintendo Switch and PC. Currently there is no physical copy of the game, but maybe one day we could get all of the Sakura visual novels on one physical cartridge. That'd be pretty cool, at least in my opinion. If you enjoyed the video, I really hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. And if you like what I do and want to offer your support, check out the first link in the video description down below. But with all that said, I hope you all have a great Christmas. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.